Hi, this is Naomi Bennett with LearnAstrologyNow.com. As I had promised when we had talked about the first quarter of 2011, this begins the most critical part of this first part of the year, and I'm just barely broadcasting this 2 days before the center of some of the activities. So we know we've already had huge upset in the Arab world, and I broadcast last when Egypt had been overthrown, but now Libya is in chaos and no one has stopped Gaddafi, and he is now taking over the other cities, but we're still seeing riots and protests in Bahrain. They paid off the Saudi people by donating $32 billion to their entire population to trying to quell that. But Saudi Arabia is sending troops into Bahrain to control that. And then the next question is whether or not Iran is going to follow suit, and Iraq is already in protest too. So most of the Arab world regarding the Shiites versus the Sunnis seem to be in a major upset of turning over all the dictatorships, but what will replace them is unknown. Levels of this is going to go on, but we're in a crisis mode because we're getting near the moon wobble of March the 19th that is coming up. And notice that this moon wobble is in very early cardinal signs, and that all of Asia, and particularly Japan, had a lot of factors in the early cardinals. And so last Friday, we had the Japanese have a major earthquake and tsunami, and now they are facing nuclear disaster. They've had 4 explosions in reactors 1, 2, 3, and 4. We don't know if anything else has been compromised because they've been slow to admit what the problems are, but it's ongoing. I don't see this stopping yet. I do expect we're going to have some sort of crisis point by March the 20th, which I believe is this Sunday. So keep your eyes alert, because this is not a problem that's going to stop yet. And we're going to go on to the charts, but do look at the second chart in particular, because though we have the moon wobble, a peak of March the 20th, we go on to a Mars-Uranus where we continue in crisis mode and activity and chaos and revolt all the way through April the 4th, and not really fading until April the 6th. So I felt it was very important to put in this critical time period to be able to look at those charts specifically and talk about them. So next are the charts. All right, this is the chart for the moon wobble that's actually exact on March the 19th, but I chose to put up the full moon chart of March the 20th because I think that this is going to be a stronger day. So this winds up being quite a severe chart. I think that we're going to have a head or a final resolution be what's happening in Japan, because we have the sun squaring the lunar nodes at 26 Gemini and Sagittarius. That's the squaring moon wobble. But on top of that, on the 20th, we have a full moon on the 20th, and then that full moon is in opposition to the sun and Uranus. So this particular moon wobble has the lunar node not very far from Pluto, which has been long-term associated with nuclear activity and things with the atomic bomb. So we have that coming into play, and then we always have some sort of crisis point that happens. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more additional activity in the Arab world. Will there be a decision regarding controlling the air over Libya? Because usually wars begin and end during moon wobbles or eclipses. And so those are all probabilities right now, but this isn't over. It's still building up to a greater climax in the next 2 weeks, and we want to definitely look at the next chart. So consider this as a peak of activity with another one following very shortly behind. This is the chart for April the 4th 2011, which is the center, the very exact day of Mars square Uranus. But this is an aspect that's been building up for over a week to a week and a half, because earlier in this time frame, the sun went over Uranus and went over Mars, and now it's coming into a conjunction of the sun, Jupiter, and the moon, which represents a new moon in opposition to Saturn. So this is the day I consider the most intense of a Mars square Uranus, is this particular day and chart. But be forewarned that this activity starts a week to a week and a half ahead of time, and we had the moon wobble on March the 20th. So we're just continuing this intensity of this high period time. So what does it look like? This chart can represent justice, social justice, because of the sun in opposition to Saturn, Saturn in the sign of Libra, which is fairness, Jupiter about social change, and the moon about the wishes of the people. So there's a possibility there could be a change of government and corporate structure during this time, but it also represents a positive, dramatic change within the military, because the sun conjunct Mars in a conjunction in Aries is about pushing for change into the future. Because it's in Aries, it represents the military or military actions, or taking things in your own hands by force. There's still a possibility this could be associated with nuclear activity, since it is in the sign of Aries, which I consider to be ruled by Pluto, which has always been associated with nuclear or atomic activity. But hopefully the issues with Japan will have already been settled back in the last moon wobble. So this means for most all of us is to be more careful with our own impulsivity, to watch our temper, to be more careful with our driving, and reconsider taking any action until after April the 6th, when these intense aspects and needing to feel like you have to act immediately are faded, and the sense of urgency has been reduced. So with this, we wish you the best of luck and the best of days ahead. This is Naomi Bennett with Learn Astrology Now.